Blaire White is a right-wing political commentator on YouTube who is a Trump supporter, from my understanding, and she recently made a video detailing why she's deciding to move away from politically oriented content. And in this video, she made some relatively explosive, albeit unsurprising, accusations against other right-wing YouTubers. So she says that there's a number of reasons as to why she's choosing to no longer make political content. She said, quote, "Political commentary has effed up her life." So one of the reasons why she wants to stop making this type of content is because she claims that she's been harassed, threatened, and doxxed. And another reason that she wants to stop is because individuals within her circle, right-wing, Trump-supporting circles, she says that other political commentators like her are phonies.
I moved to LA almost a year ago, and one thing about LA is there's a lot of work here, so a lot of other political commentators, other people who you guys know, I'm not talking about obscure people here, a lot of them either live in LA or they're constantly in and out for work, filming something, doing whatever they do. So I've met almost all of them. People I've either been on their show or on a show with them, or I went to a dinner with them, an event with them, or I became close with some of them. The amount of them that I've met that have told me either directly or in a roundabout way that's very clear that they don't believe everything that they say that they believe when they're on camera. A lot of them just flat out don't believe. They're just actors. They're just actors. I don't know how else to put it. I had one person who I went on their show and I was in the green room, which is like the makeup room before you go on camera. The host of the show comes in and it's like, "Hey Blaire," small talk. "Hey Blaire, wanted you on for a while. So glad you're here. Nice to meet you. Let's take a picture, blah, blah, blah." They pull me aside and say, "I just want you to know, Blaire, I don't feel any negative way towards you or trans people. I know we talk negatively of trans people a lot on the show, but that's just because it's kind of what the fans want. But it's just kind of where we're at right now." And I was taken aback because I felt like that's really fraudulent that you would feel the need to go on air and say something negative about trans people or transgenderism or whatever, but it's not really how you feel. He also said he has like a trans cousin or something like that, and that he feels bad that they're the butt of every joke on his show or whatever. And I was like, but almost every person I met after him was almost always consistently like that. Because you start learning things like, oh, almost all of them hire people to tweet and Facebook post and Instagram on their behalf, tweeting out opinions on their behalf, which I feel like is unethical because if people are following you because they believe you're some intellectual and they trust your opinion and they're going to shape their opinions a lot of times on an issue based on your opinion, and it's not even actually your opinion, it's something that you paid someone to assume is your opinion, and you're so much of a rigid, like, binary thinker that it's easy just to pay someone, like, yeah, tweet out the standard response, and this is what it is. It's like, I don't respect that. And I don't really know what it is about me in particular that makes people feel comfortable enough to sort of reveal to me that, they don't believe all the things that they say they believe on camera. I'm not talking about small things either, you guys. I'm talking about, like, huge principal positions. I'm talking about, like, the kind of stuff that a lot of you guys follow these people for, they don't even actually believe. Like, it's just crazy.
So everything she says confirms what I suspected all along, but nonetheless, it's still a pretty big deal. So she says they don't believe what they say on camera. They espouse transphobic bigotry to pander to their audience. They pay people to tweet for them and whatnot. In other words, they're all a bunch of hucksters. Now, the reason why I suspected this about a lot of right-wing political commentators on YouTube is because their arguments are so bad that I don't know how they believe their own bullshit. And you have individuals like Dave Rubin, like Candace Owens, who had this sudden transformation, within the span of a year or two, and all of a sudden they're right-wingers and they're espousing all the same right-wing talking points once they receive funding from the Koch brothers and Learn Liberty and Turning Point USA. I mean, it's obvious that these people are frauds. Now, she didn't name names, and I probably shouldn't speculate, but of course, that's what I'm going to do. So, how is this not Dave Rubin? The first person that came to my mind as she was explaining this was Dave Rubin. I mean, he was liberal. He left TYT, slowly but surely made this transition, started taking money from the Koch brothers, and then he changed like that. How is this not Dave Rubin? I mean, I don't know who else to suspect. I don't really suspect Ben Shapiro, because he's always been a right-wing hack, but Dave Rubin, certainly. I don't believe he believes anything that comes out of his mouth. I think he's just pandering to his audience. So Dave Rubin is certainly one of them. I don't know who else, but I mean, certainly, I think that it's easy to see why people are such hucksters given the climate on YouTube, because before, it never was the case that right-wing YouTubers would be very successful on YouTube. And Kyle Kalinske has talked about this before. If you were a right-winger, if you were conservative, you would pretty much be laughed out of the room. But now, all of a sudden, with the rise of Donald Trump in the 2016 election, well, right-wingers learned how to shitpost, and they learned what memes are. And all of a sudden, it's pretty cool and popular to be a right-winger. And suddenly, some liberal and moderate YouTubers are espousing right-wing talking points and claiming to be conservative, and are claiming that they changed and that they evolved and that they've become more moderate in their political views. So anyone who had a recent change since 2016, they're full of shit. They're full of shit. And that should be painfully obvious, because currently, with this modern YouTube climate, it is more lucrative to be a right-winger. That's just a fact. There are more right-wingers who are rising than there are liberals right now. I think that liberals on YouTube, we're still doing okay, but I think that the market itself, if you will, is relatively stagnant. If you are a right-winger, you can skyrocket and get thousands upon thousands of not just subscribers, but clicks. So anyone who has had a recent change, they don't believe their own bullshit. Anyone. And there's other individuals out there who are lesser known that had a sudden change. Understand, they're full of shit too. I'm not going to name names myself because I don't have to, but you all know who I'm talking about. People who are very pro-Bernie, who are all of a sudden pro-Trump. Now, Blaire didn't stop there, because she actually did reveal a bit more about right-wing political commentators, and specifically I found this interesting because I've talked about the right-wing victim complex, but she talks about how they specifically and disingenuously try to perpetuate that victim narrative on the right, and this is what they do in particular.
Months ago, I was gearing up to do a tour, which never happened because the tour company completely screwed me over, but regardless, I had started promoting it, and someone who's very prominent in the social political commentary sphere hit me up, and you know what this person told me? They told me, plant fake protesters outside of your event. Not only that, they said, make fake signs, because you're probably gonna get protesters, but you wanna amp the numbers. This person instructed me, myself, or my team and myself, make signs saying things that were super, super ridiculous to put outside and bulk up the numbers of people who may protest at my events. And it made me sick, because clearly this person has done that. And this is someone who, although is hated by many, is also loved by many. And the many who love him believe that all those people were real. It's just such, I know too much about these people. I mean, a lot of these people were on the complete opposite end of the political spectrum just a couple years ago, publicly, before the money started flowing on the other side. And that makes me uncomfortable, not because people can't change or have an awakening or, everyone changes their opinions on certain things, but you realize that it's not actually a change of opinion that's organic and real when you meet them and you see for yourself.
Wow. I mean, again, this isn't anything that's like world changing to me, because I kind of suspected this, right? My bullshit meter was always going off, whenever I see individuals like Dave Rubin speak and whatnot, but they literally are planting protesters at their speaking gigs in order to further this intolerant left narrative. And she claims multiple people allegedly do this, and it's just a thing. Why aren't you doing this, Blaire? I mean, look, I'll say this. The caveat is that I can't vouch for her credibility, because I honestly wasn't too familiar with her work. I mean, I've heard of Blaire White. I've seen her on the Rubin Report debating Candace Owens. I've heard of her, right? So I don't know about her credibility, but I do believe her here, because this isn't that surprising. It's not something that is hard to believe at all. If you have common sense, you can see there's a lot of bullshitters who recently decided to evolve, because that's where the market's going on YouTube. For me, I mean, as a gay man, if I decided to suddenly come out and be a Trump supporter, I would be more famous than ever. I'd have more subscribers and money than ever. But you see, the thing that's more important to me than, views and clicks and money is principle. And actually being able to live with myself and sleep at night. That's more important to me. But there are some individuals who, they don't really have a driving principle. They are specifically on YouTube and they're motivated by views and clicks. That's it. They just want to get famous. They don't care about policy outcomes. And one point that Kyle makes that is such a good point, Kyle Kulinski of Secular Talk, is that he says for individuals who flip and go from liberal to conservative and who have done that recently, how can you suddenly say, okay, for all the policies that there are, 35 to 50 different policies that liberals and conservatives disagree on, how can you suddenly, with the flip of a switch, be in favor of all those 35 policies? It doesn't make any sense, right? How can you change your mind on everything? You'd have to be full of shit. I mean, at a minimum, a reasonable person might just, change when it comes to one or two policies. Like, we're starting to see a lot of Republicans and right-wingers come around to the idea of Medicare for all. But every other liberal issue, regulation and whatnot, they're not on board with. But that's more reasonable. That's more organic. But for someone to just all of a sudden change their opinion on everything, and you hear Dave Rubin arguing that deregulation of the free market is the best bet after he was liberal and worked for TYT, I mean, they're so full of shit. And if people don't see that, if you're attending the rallies of these people and you believe in these people, I feel sorry for you, because there are so many people that want to profit off of politics right now because the climate is so volatile. And really, I disrespect these people because they're making it worse, right? They're trying to frame the left as intolerant when really that's projection, but it's strategy for them. They don't give a fuck about policy. They don't care about the country. They're willing to hurt the country in order to benefit themselves personally. And I don't know how these people sleep at night. I really don't. So if you know of anyone that suddenly became a Trump supporter after 2016, your bullshit detector should be going crazy. There should be all the red flags in the world because they're full of shit. And, again, I'll say it again, this isn't surprising, but what Blaire Wright is saying, it's just, there's multiple people like that. So definitely, I think she's probably talking about Dave Rubin. Candace Owens has to be one, although I don't know that she's friends with Candace Owens. But, I mean, to talk bad about trans people, not just, saying that about Dave Rubin, but in general, to pretend to hate trans people when you like trans people and you have a trans cousin, as she was talking about with one of the anecdotes, there's a certain level of just disgustingness to that I can't overcome. It's just so morally reprehensible to throw an entire community under a bus because you want to pander to your audience. It's just unbelievable. So, what she's saying here is, I think, really important, and I'm surprised that this isn't getting more attention because it's pretty big.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.